Good afternoon, football fans. Big Al here. It is Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, and welcome to another edition of the week that was in the National Football League as we run down all the scores and stats from week 10 of 2020. Plus, my week 11 power rankings will be at the end, so stick around for all of that. Oh, before we begin, I looked over my picks that I made on Friday, and I did make a few changes because I wasn't so sure about those picks, so I switched them out. And I'll tell you about all the games that I switched out as we go along on this list. So stick around and let's get into the week that was. Week number 10 of the 2020 NFL season. Starting off with Thursday night football and the battle for first place in the AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts visited the Tennessee Titans. The Colts came in with a 5-3 record and they were ranked 14th in my power rankings for week 10. The Titans at 6-2 and ranked number 7. In fact, Tennessee had dropped 2 out of 3 going into this game. That's after a 5-0 start. Well, the Colts end up winning this one 34-17. And we have a tie for first place in the AFC South with both teams at 6-3. Next, for the Colts, they'll host Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers on Sunday, while the Tennessee Titans travel to Baltimore to face Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. All right. So, total yards were 430 for the Indianapolis Colts, running 68 offensive plays. 297 yards on 39 passes, 133 yards on 29 runs. They averaged 6.32 yards per play. Tennessee Titans had 294 yards of offense on 59 plays, 137 yards on 27 passes, 157 yards on 32 rushes. They averaged 4.98 yards per play. First downs nearly even. The Colts had 26, while the Titans had 25 first downs. Both teams kind of struggled with their third down conversions. Indianapolis was 4 for 12 at 33.3%. Tennessee was 3 for 10 at 30%. Fourth down conversions, Indy was 3 for 5, hitting 60%, while the Titans were 0 for 1. Defensively, the Indianapolis Colts recorded 38 tackles, 14 solo tackles, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 4 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 9 times for 73 yards, and time of possession was 31 minutes and 18 seconds. The Tennessee Titans defense had 50 tackles, 25 of those solo, with 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 4 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were flagged 3 times for 30 yards, and time of possession was 28 minutes, 42 seconds. Closing line was Indianapolis -1, margin 17 points. Over-under was 49. The two teams just finished over that total as they combined to score 51 points. There were 724 total yards and 127 offensive plays, which equals out to an average combined yards per play of 5.70. I picked the Colts to win this game 24-21 and to cover the 1-point spread. Colts ended up winning by 17, so I got both of those picks correct. All right, now to the Sunday afternoon schedule, starting off with the Houston Texans at the Cleveland Browns. The Texans came into this game with a 2-6 record, and they were ranked 27th in my Week 10 power rankings. The Cleveland Browns were 5-3 and ranked number 15. And the defenses showed up in this game for both teams as Cleveland wins this low scoring affair 10-7. The Browns improved to 6-3, and they will host the NFC East leading Philadelphia Eagles come Sunday afternoon, while the 2-7 Texans return home to host the New England Patriots. The Cleveland Browns ran 61 offensive plays, totaled 356 yards, just 125 yards on 20 pass plays, and 231 yards on 41 runs. And I read the individual numbers from this game. They had 2 rushers over 100 yards in this game. Average yards per play was 5.84. The Houston Texans offense ran 52 plays for 243 yards, 153 yards on 30 passes, 90 yards on 22 rushes. Average yards per play was 4.67. First downs favored Cleveland 20-16. Both teams were 50% on third down. The Browns were 6 for 12, while the Texans were 7 for 14. And both teams finished 0 for 1 on fourth down. Browns defense, 39 tackles, 23 solo, with 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 1 pass defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 6 times for 63 yards. Time of possession was 33 minutes and 20 seconds. The Houston Texans defense recorded 40 tackles, 16 solo, with 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 1 pass defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were flagged 6 times as well for 49 yards, and time of possession was 26 minutes and 40 seconds. Closing line was Cleveland -4. The margin ended up being 3 points. Over under at close, 46 points. The two teams scored just 17 points, so they finished well under the closed total of 46. Two teams combined for just 599 yards on 113 offensive plays, averaging 5.30 yards per play combined. I took Houston to pull off the upset 27-23, and I also picked them to cover Cleveland's 4-point spread. I lost the straight up pick, but I got the ATS pick correct. All right. Off we go to Lambeau Field as the Green Bay Packers hosted the Jacksonville Jaguars. Green Bay came in with a 6-2 record and ranked number 5 in my Week 10 power rankings. Jacksonville, riding a 6-game losing streak, came in at 1-7 and ranked number 31. The Packers were on upset watch the entire day, but they pulled out the win 24-20 in what many thought should have been a blowout. But let's just call a spade a spade. Green Bay just simply struggled in this game. The Packers do improve to 7-2, and they'll travel to Indianapolis on Sunday. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Jaguars fall to 1-8, and they have now lost 7 in a row. And it gets no easier. The unbeaten Pittsburgh Steelers come to Duval County this Sunday. All right, the Green Bay Packers ran 59 offensive plays for 395 yards, 315 on 34 passes, and only 80 yards on 25 runs. They averaged a cool 7.31 yards per play. Jacksonville was limited to 260 yards on 58 offensive plays, 151 on 35 passes, 109 on 23 runs. Average yards per play, 4.48. Each team had 16 first downs. Green Bay converted 5 of 13 on third downs for 38.5%. Jacksonville 4 for 13 for 30.8%. Both teams 0 for 1 on fourth down. Green Bay's defense had 45 tackles, 32 solo tackles, 3 sacks, no forced fumbles, 6 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Green Bay was penalized 4 times for 35 yards. Time of possession 31 minutes 41 seconds. Jacksonville's defense recorded 42 tackles, 19 solo tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 4 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The Jaguars were flagged 7 times for 86 yards. Time of possession was 28 minutes and 19 seconds. Closing line was Green Bay minus 13.5. Margin was 4 points. Over under at close was 47. And both teams just missed that number by a field goal as the two teams scored a combined 44 points. There were 655 yards of offense on 117 plays by the two teams. Average yards per play combined was 5.60. I took Green Bay to win 34-16. And I took them to cover the 13.5 points. So I got the straight up pick, but not the ATS pick. All right, on to the NFC East. The Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants. The Eagles, fresh off of their bye week, came in with a 3-4-1 record and leading the NFC East. They were ranked 17th in my Week 10 power rankings. The New York Giants came in with a 2-7 record, and they were ranked number 28. And it's the Giants getting revenge on the Eagles for that Thursday night win a few weeks back, as New York wins 27-17. So now all of a sudden, that's back-to-back wins for the New York Giants. They're now 3-7 going into their bye week. They'll be back in action on November 29th when they travel to Cincinnati to battle Joe Burrow and the Bengals. The Eagles dropped to 3-5-1 and still lead the NFC East. They got a tough game coming up Sunday at Cleveland. In fact, I looked at the Eagles' schedule. Their next 5 games, including this Sunday, are not going to be easy. And they're going to have to put their big boy pants on over these next 5 weeks. The New York Giants offense, probably the most productive we've seen them all year. They ran 64 offensive plays for 382 yards, 231 yards passing on 28 plays, and 151 rush yards on 36 attempts. Average yards per play was 5.97. The Philadelphia Eagles ran 60 offensive plays for 346 yards, 190 passing on 37 throws, and 156 rushing on 23 attempts. Average yards per play was 5.77. Each team recorded 22 first downs. New York was 5 for 14 on third downs at 35.7%, 1 for 2 on fourth down. The Philadelphia Eagles, 0 for 9 on third down. That's a big reason why they lost. Fourth down conversions, they were 1 for 3. The Giants defense recorded 40 tackles, 29 solo tackles, 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 6 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 7 times for 64 yards. Average time of possession for the New York Giants was 31 minutes and 43 seconds, and I think that's the longest time they possessed the ball in a single game this year. Philadelphia Eagles defense records 47 tackles, 14 solo tackles, 3 sacks, no forced fumbles, 1 pass defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 11 times for 74 yards. Another reason why they lost. Time of possession was 28 minutes and 17 seconds. Closing line was Philadelphia -5. Margin was 10 points. Over/under was 47. Two teams combined for 44 points, which means they missed their 47-point total by a field goal. The two teams combined for 728 yards and 124 offensive plays, averaging 5.87 yards per play combined on offense. I picked the Eagles to win 27-17, ironically enough. And I also picked the Eagles to cover the 5 points. Obviously, Philly lost both. And so I take the L both straight up and against the spread here. All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers. The Buccaneers looking for a bounce-back game after just being flat-out dominated by the Saints last Sunday night. They came in with a 6-3 record, and they were ranked 11th in my power rankings. In fact, they had the biggest drop in my Week 10 power rankings. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers, who all of a sudden had lost 4 straight games after a 3-game win streak, they came in with a 3-6 record, and they were ranked 23rd. Well, the losing streak will continue for the Panthers. They got drilled by the Bucs by the final of 46-23. Tampa goes to 7-3 on the season, and they will host the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football next week. While Carolina has now dropped 5 in a row to fall to 3-7, they will host Matt Stafford and the Detroit Lions on Sunday. All right. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had just 194 yards of offense last Sunday night against New Orleans. On Sunday, they posted a season-high 544 yards against the Carolina Panthers, running 76 offensive plays. They threw the ball 39 times for 334 yards, ran the ball 37 times for 210 yards. They averaged 7.16 yards per game, or 7.16 yards per play. The Carolina Panthers had just 187 yards and ran just 45 plays. 122 passing yards on 28 pass attempts. And they were held to just 65 yards on 17 rush attempts. Average yards per play, 4.16. First downs more than a 2-1 clip to Tampa Bay, 30-13. The Buccaneers were 10 for 16 on third down, that's 62.5%, and 1 for 1 on fourth down. The Carolina Panthers, on the other hand, were 1 for 9 on third down. That's 11.1%. And 1 for 3 on fourth down. Tampa Bay's defense had 32 tackles, 17 solo tackles, 3 sacks, no forced fumble, 4 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 3 times for 30 yards. Time of possession was 36 minutes and 5 seconds. And that makes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers our first ball hawks of Week 10. The Carolina Panthers defense recorded 41 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 5 times for 40 yards. Time of possession only 23 minutes and 55 seconds. Closing line was Tampa Bay -6. Margin was 23 points. So this ended up being the second highest margin of victory of any game in Week 10. Over under at close was 49.5. The two teams shot past that, scoring 69 points. So obviously this game finished over the total. Two teams combined for 731 yards and 121 offensive plays, averaging 6.04 yards per play. I picked Tampa Bay to win this game 31-21 and to cover the 6 points. I got the win in both those picks. And then the final early start on Sunday had the Washington football team in Detroit against the Lions. Washington came in with a record of 2-6, and they were ranked number 29 in my Week 10 power rankings. The Lions, meanwhile, were 3-5 and ranked number 25. And it's the home team that gets the win here as they beat the Redskins on a last-second field goal, 30-27. The Lions are now 4-5 as they head down to Charlotte to play the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, while the Washington football team returns home to the nation's capital to host Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Reds. Detroit's offense ran 54 offensive plays, totaling 372 yards, 267 yards on 33 passes, 105 yards on 21 runs. Average yards per play was 6.89. Washington had 464 yards on offense and ran 81 plays, 375 passing yards on 55 throws, but only 89 yards rushing on 26 rush attempts. Average yards per play was 5.73. First downs favored Washington. They had 34 to Detroit's 21. Third down conversions, 4 of 10 for the Lions for 40% and no fourth down attempts. Washington 7 of 15 on third down, 46.7%, and a perfect 2 for 2 on fourth down. The Lions defense had 62 tackles, 47 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 9 times for 55 yards. Time of possession was 35 minutes and 43 seconds. Or rather, Detroit's time of possession was 24 minutes and 17 seconds. That was my mistake. Washington's defense had 36 tackles, 21 solo tackles, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, no passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 6 times for 58 yards. Their time of possession was 35 minutes, 43 seconds. So Washington becomes our second Ball Hawks of Week 10. Closing line was Detroit minus 2.5, margin 3 points. Over under at close 45.5. The two teams combined to score 57. That finished over the total. And there was a lot of yards in this game. 836 yards and 135 offensive plays. Average combined yards per play was 6.19. I initially picked Washington to win this game. But then after I did the video, I was like, nah, I'll just go along with everyone and hit the Lions. And I predicted a score of 24-20 for the Detroit Lions. And I also had them covering the 2.5 points. So I'm glad I switched my pick here and got the win in both categories. So those are the early games on Sunday. It was a pretty weird looking schedule with only 5 early games and 6 late games. And here's the first of the 6 late games and probably one of the more exciting games we've seen this year. The Buffalo Bills at the Arizona Cardinals. Buffalo comes into this game with a 6-3 record and ranked number 6 in my Week 10 power rankings. Oh, and they were the AFC East leaders going in as well. The Arizona Cardinals came in with a record of 5-3, and they were ranked number 8. And for a while here, it looked like Buffalo was going to come into the desert and win. But the play being held around many football circles as the Hail Murray. Yes, the Hail Murray. This is the Kyler Murray Hail Mary pass for 43 yards to DeAndre Hopkins with 1 second left that won the game for the Cardinals 32-30. Arizona moves to 6-3, and they're not going to have much time to celebrate this win because it's off to Seattle on Thursday night to face the Seahawks, who they just beat in a classic game a few weeks prior. Buffalo, meanwhile, goes into their bye week with a 7-3 record. We'll see them next on November 29th in Orchard Park as they welcome Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers to upstate New York. All right, the Arizona Cardinals ran 67 offensive plays for 453 yards. They threw for 236 yards on 32 pass attempts and rushed for 217 on 35 rush attempts. Average yards per play, a very crisp 6.76 yards. Buffalo Bills offense ran 68 plays for 369 yards, 296 yards passing on 50 throws, just 73 yards rushing on 18 runs. Average yards per play, 5.43. First downs favored the Cardinals, 26-22. Third down conversions, 5 of 13 for Arizona, 38.5%. 6 of 13 for Buffalo at 46.2%. Cardinals 1 for 1 on fourth down. The Bills did not have a fourth down play. Cardinals defense recorded 46 tackles, 27 solo, with no sacks, no forced fumbles, 4 passes defense, 2 interceptions, and no touchdowns. Arizona was penalized 7 times for 40 yards. Time of possession was 29 minutes and 40 seconds. Buffalo Bills defense at 59 tackles, 46 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 6 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. They were flagged 9 times for 69 yards. Time of possession was 30 minutes and 20 seconds. So time of possession was a slight advantage to Buffalo in this game. Closing line was Arizona -3. Margin was 2 points. Over-under at close was 55.5. Both teams combined to score 62 points. So this game finishes over the total. There were 822 yards of offense on 135 plays. Average yards per play was 6.09. I picked the Cardinals to win straight up 28-20, and I also picked them to cover the 3 points. Got the straight up pick, but not the ATS pick. Alright, next up. The Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. Denver came in with a 3-5 record, and they were ranked number 22 in my Week 10 power rankings. While the Las Vegas Raiders were 5-3 and ranked number 12. And it was all Raiders in this one as Vegas wins 37-12. John Gruden's squad improves to 6-3 on the season, and they will host the world champion Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football as they look to sweep the champs. Remember, they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City earlier this year. The Broncos dropped to 3-6, and they will host Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, the red-hot Miami Dolphins, on Sunday in the Mile High City. Las Vegas Raiders offense recorded 66 offensive plays for 357 yards, 154 yards on 25 passes, 203 yards on 41 rushes. Average yards per play, 5.41. Denver Broncos offense also ran 66 plays for 313 yards, 247 on 47 pass plays, and just 66 yards on 19 rushing plays. Average yards per play was 4.74. Raiders had 21 first downs, while the Broncos had 20. Both were pretty good on on third down conversions. Vegas 6 for 13 for 46.2%. Denver 7 for 15 for 46.7%. The Broncos 1 for 1 on fourth down, so they converted their first fourth down play of the season. Took them 10 weeks to do it. Vegas did not have a fourth down play in this game. Raiders defense recorded 39 tackles, 26 solo with 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 10, count them, 10 passes defensed, 2 interceptions, and no touchdowns. The Raiders were flagged 8 times for 82 yards. Average time of possession, or actual time of possession, was 36 minutes, 38 seconds. So these are ball hawks, the third of the week. Denver Broncos defense, 47 tackles, 25 solo tackles, no sacks, no forced fumbles, 1 pass defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. So their defense was pretty quiet in this game. Denver was flagged 7 times for 37 yards, time of possession just 23 minutes and 22 seconds. Closing line was Las Vegas, -3, margin 25 points. This makes it the biggest margin of victory for any team in any game in Week 10. Over-under at close was at 50.5, and the two teams just missed that mark as the two combined to score 49 points. So another 1.5 here or there, and they would have hit that number. They combined for 670 yards and 132 offensive plays. Average yards per play was 5.08. I picked the Raiders to beat the Broncos 24-17 and to cover the 3 points, and they did so basically without breaking a sweat, winning by 25. All right. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Miami Dolphins. And this was a battle of the first 2 quarterbacks taken in the 2020 NFL Draft. The Los Angeles Chargers came in with a record of 2-6, and they were ranked number 26 in my Week 10 power rankings. They were, of course, led by the 6th overall pick in the 2020 draft, the rookie quarterback from the University of Oregon, Justin Herbert. And then you got the Miami Dolphins with a 6-2 record. Not a 6-2 record, but rather a 5-3 record, and they were ranked number 10 in my power rankings. They are led by the number 5 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft out of the University of Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa. And in the first ever meeting between Herbert and Tagovailoa, Tua comes out on top. The Dolphins win again, 29-21. Dolphins improved to 6-3. They are off to Denver to face the Broncos on Sunday. While the 2-7 Chargers return home to the City of Angels to host the winless New York Football Jets. If there's a get-right game on their schedule, this is it. This is the perfect team. All right. Not a lot of offense, however, by either team. The Miami Dolphins had just 280 yards on 58 offensive plays, 169 yards on 25 passes, 111 yards on 33 rushes. Average yards per play was 4.83. The Los Angeles Chargers had 273 yards and ran just 61 offensive plays. 174 yards on 32 passes, 99 yards on 29 rushes. Average yards per play was 4.48. First downs favored LA. They had 19 versus Miami's 17. Both teams kind of struggled on third down in this game. The Dolphins were 5 for 14 for 35.7%, while the Chargers were 4 for 13 for 30.8%. LA was 2 for 3 on fourth down, while Miami did not run a fourth down play. The Dolphins defense recorded 38 tackles, 5 solo tackles, 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 6 passes defense, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. They were penalized just 3 times for 15 yards, and time of possession slight advantage to Miami at 30 minutes and 6 seconds. The Chargers defense had 40 tackles, 26 solo tackles, no sacks, no forced fumbles, 2 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. So a quiet day for the Charger defense as well. They were penalized 5 times for 31 yards, time of possession, 29 minutes and 54 seconds. So, time of possession in this game was razor thin, but again, Miami got the slight edge over the Chargers. Closing line was Miami -2, margin was 8 points, over-under at close was 48.5 points. The two teams combined for 50, so they finished over the total. Only 553 total yards and 119 plays by the teams. And the combined average yards per play is 4.65. All right, I picked the Dolphins to win this game 27-24 and to cover the 2 points. I got the win in both of those picks. Okay, now you've got another rookie quarterback, the number 1 player taken in the 2020 NFL Draft from LSU, the former Heisman Trophy winner and national champion Joe Burrow from LSU, and his 2-5-1 Cincinnati Bengals, ranked number 19 in my power rankings. They traveled to the Steel City to face the 8-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, ranked number 1. And this game pretty much went the way you'd expect, as the Steelers just blew the doors off the Bengals, winning this one going away 36-10. So, the Steelers boldly go where no other Steelers team has gone before, 9-0. And they have a shot at making it 10-0 on Sunday when they travel down to Jacksonville. The Bengals, meanwhile, dropped to 2-6-1. They're off to D.C. to face the Washington football team. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense ran 66 plays for 377 yards, 333 yards on 46 passes, just 44 yards on 20 rushes. Average yards per play still pretty respectable at 5.71. Cincinnati Bengals offense ran 61 plays, 324 yards, 185 yards on 40 passes, 139 yards on 21 rushes. Average yards per play also respectable at 5.31. First downs favored the Steelers at 22-16. Third downs, big discrepancy. The Steelers, 6 of 16 for 37.5% and no fourth down attempts. The Bengals, they were 0 for 13 on third down. We talked about the Eagles going 0 for 9 in their loss to the Giants. Well, the Bengals go 0 for 13 on third down against the Steelers, but they were 2 for 3 on fourth downs at 66.7%. Pittsburgh's defense on fourth down, I think, allowed just 18% going into this game, but they allowed 2 fourth down conversions. So that's going to hurt their average. The Steelers' defense recorded 45 tackles, 28 solo tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 passes defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Steelers were flagged 6 times for 45 yards. Time of possession, 30 minutes, 28 seconds. Cincinnati Bengals defense at 39 tackles, 10 solo, with no sacks, no forced fumbles, 6 passes defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were flagged 6 times as well for 65 yards. And time of possession was 29-32. So this is another game where time of possession was nearly evenly split. But it's the victorious team that wins the time of possession battle. Closing line was Pittsburgh minus 6.5. Over under at close was 45.5. The margin I didn't write down in this game was 26. So this is actually the biggest margin of victory of any game in Week 10. All right, the two teams slightly finished over that number at 46 points. There were 701 yards of offense and 127 plays. Average yards per play combined was 5.52. I took the Steelers to win 27-21. However, I did pick Cincinnati to cover the 6.5 points, but they ended up getting blown out by 26. So I ended up taking the L there in the ATS. And then the final Sunday afternoon game. No, this is not the final Sunday afternoon game. This is the next final Sunday afternoon game, but we're getting there. The San Francisco 49ers at the New Orleans Saints. All right, the injury-riddled 49ers came in with a 4-5 record, and they were ranked 20th in my Week 10 power rankings. While the New Orleans Saints came in with a 6-2 record, and they were ranked 3rd. Now, if you may remember, these two teams met last December in the Superdome and put on an offensive clinic as the two teams combined for 94 points and well over 1,000 yards of offense. Well, we did not get nowhere near that production in the sequel, but we do get the same result as we did last year, a Saints win, 27-13. New Orleans goes to 7-2. They will host the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. And the San Francisco 49ers fall to 4-6 as they go into their bye week. Their next game will be November the 29th in Los Angeles against the Rams, a team they've beaten earlier this year. And there is some injury news from this game involving the Saints, as quarterback Drew Brees ended up leaving this game with multiple rib fractures, and according to head coach Sean Payton, he may be out the next couple of weeks. So, with Brees on the shelf, we may end up having Jameis Winston come in as the quarterback while he's out. All right, and there was not a lot of offense in this game either. The New Orleans Saints ran just 53 offensive plays for 237 yards, 123 yards on 23 passes, and 114 yards on just 30 runs. They averaged only 4.47 yards per run or per play. The 49ers offense ran 64 plays for 281 yards. 232 yards on 39 passes, and only 49 yards on 25 runs. So that's not even 2 yards a run. Average yards per play was 4.39. First downs favored San Francisco 21-17. The Saints struggled on third down conversions. They were 2 for 12 for 16.7%. Fourth down conversions, they had none. The San Francisco 49ers were 7 of 16 on third downs for 43.8% and 0 for 1 on fourth down. Saints defense at 44 tackles, 23 solo tackles, 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 9 passes defensed, 2 interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were flagged 5 times for 61 yards, and your time of possession was 27 minutes and 6 seconds. The San Francisco 49ers defense records 35 tackles, 10 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 6 times for 51 yards, and time of possession 32 minutes and 54 seconds. Closing line was New Orleans minus 10, margin was at 14. Your over-under at close was at 49 points. Not quite there, though. The two teams combined for just 40, and that's a far cry from the 94 points these teams put up in last year's meeting. A far cry. There were only 518 yards of offense in this game, which is also a far cry from last year's totals. And the two teams combined to run 117 offensive plays, averaging 4.43 yards per play. I picked the Saints to win 37-20, and I also picked them to cover the 10 points. So I get the dub in both straight up and against the spread. And now we've come to the last Sunday afternoon game on the schedule, and that's the Seattle Seahawks at 6-2 and ranked number 9 in my Week 10 power rankings, traveling to the City of Angels to face Jared Goff and the 5-3 Los Angeles Rams, ranked number 13. And it's the home team that gets the win here, 23-16. All right, the Rams are off to Tampa to face the Bucs on Monday Night Football, while the Seahawks, well, I have very little time to dwell on this, as they're preparing to host the Arizona Cardinals on Thursday night. Both teams are at 6-3, and for what it's worth, both teams are now tied with the Arizona Cardinals for first place in the NFC West. And again, you got the Cardinals and Seahawks playing Thursday night. LA's offense ran 66 plays for 389 yards, 283 yards on 37 passes, and 106 yards on 29 runs. Average yards per play was 5.89. Seattle Seahawks offense ran 59 plays for 333 yards, 220 yards on 37 passes, 113 yards on 22 rushes. Average yards per play for the Hawks was 5.64. First downs favored Los Angeles at 24-20. Both teams were pretty solid on third down conversions. Rams were 9 for 15 at 60% and 1 for 1 on fourth down. Seattle, 7 of 14 on third down for 50%. They did not attempt or convert a fourth down. LA's defense had 51 tackles, 42 solo tackles. How about 6 sacks on Russell Wilson? Yeah, 6 sacks. No forced fumbles, 4 passes defense, 2 interceptions, and no touchdowns. LA was flagged 4 times for 49 yards. Time of possession was 33 minutes and 36 seconds. The Seattle Seahawks defense registered 56 tackles, 45 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Seattle was also flagged 4 times for 23 yards. Time of possession, only 26 minutes and 24 seconds. Closing line, Los Angeles minus 2.5. Margin was 17 points. Over under at close was 55. And in this game, these two teams came nowhere close to that 55-point total, as the two combined to score 39 points. You had 722 yards and 125 offensive plays in this game. And I forgot to put in the average yards per play. Give me a second here while I compute that. It is 5.78. So let me write that in here real quick. 5.78. Got it. Okay. I picked Seattle to win this game 34-28 and to cover the 2.5 points as the road underdog. They failed to do both as they lost by 7. All right. On down to Sunday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens at the New England Patriots. The Ravens came in with a 6-2 record, and they were ranked number 4 in my Week 10 power rankings. They traveled up to Foxborough to battle the New England Patriots with a record of 3-5 and ranked 24th in my Week 10 power rankings. And it's Cam and the Patriots who pulled the upset off here as New England wins 23-17. So this I think may have been a season-saving game for the New England Patriots, because if they lost this game, they would have been in deeper trouble than they were going into this game. New England is now 4-5. They will travel to Houston on Sunday. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Ravens, they fall to 6-3. And they will host Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. New England Patriots offense ran 57 offensive plays for 308 yards, 135 on 18 passes, and 173 on 39 rushes. Average yards per play, 5.40. Baltimore Ravens offense ran 62 plays for 357 yards. 242 on 34 passes, and 115 on 28 rushes. Average yards per play was 5.76. First downs favored the Patriots, 25 versus the Ravens, 19. Third down conversions, 5 of 11 for New England at 45.5%. 6 of 13 for Baltimore at 46.2%. All right, New England Patriots 1 for 1 on fourth down at 50%. Baltimore 1 for 3 at 33.3%. The Patriots defense recorded 47 tackles, 27 solo tackles, 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 4 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The Patriots were flagged 3 times for 18 yards, time of possession just 27 minutes and 26 seconds. Baltimore Ravens defense had 42 tackles, 17 solo tackles, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, no passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. They were flagged 8 times for 64 yards, and time of possession was in their favor at 32 minutes and 34 seconds. Closing line was Baltimore -7, margin was 6 points. Over-under at close was 44, and they just missed that number by a handful as the two teams scored 40 points. They combined for 665 yards and 119 offensive plays, averaging 5.59 yards per play. I picked Baltimore to win this game 26-23 and took the loss straight up. But I got the win against the spread because I picked New England to cover the 7 points. They won. They ended up winning by 6 outright. And so I got the win against the spread there. And wrapping up Week 10 was Monday Night Football and an NFC North Division tilt. as the Minnesota Vikings traveled to Soldier Field in Chicago to face the struggling Bears, coming in losers of 3 straight. They are 5-4 and ranked number 16, while the Minnesota Vikings, who started off 1-5, have now all of a sudden won back-to-back games. They were 3-5 and ranked number 18 going into this game. And the streaks for both teams continue as the Vikings go into Chicago and win 19-13. Minnesota is now 4-5 on the year, and they will host the depleted Dallas Cowboys in the Twin Cities on Sunday afternoon, while the Chicago Bears go into their bye week riding a 4-game losing streak. They're now 5-5. Their next game will be Sunday, November 29th at Lambeau Field against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. All right, the Minnesota Vikings ran 69 offensive plays for 385 yards. They actually had 286 yards on 36 passes. I don't know why I wrote 385 down. Yeah, they had 286 passing yards on 36 pass plays and 99 yards on 33 run plays. Average yards per play was 5.58. Oh, I'll tell you that in a second. The Chicago Bears offense was pretty much non-existent. They ran 48 plays for only 149 yards. 108 yards on 38 passes and just 41 yards on 17 runs. Average yards per play, not good, 3.10. First downs favored Minnesota 19-10. While one team thrived in late down situations, the other did not. Minnesota was the team that thrived in third and late down situations, as they were 8 for 15 on third down for 53.3%. They didn't have to attempt a fourth down play. Chicago, on the other hand, they struggled in this area. They were 2 for 11 on third downs for 18.2% and 0 for 2 on fourth down. Oh, and probably the only highlight for the Chicago Bears on this night was the 105-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to open the second half by former Minnesota Viking Cordell Patterson. That gave Chicago a 13-7 lead early in the third quarter, and that was the last time the Bears would score in this game. The Vikings defense recorded 33 tackles, 21 solo tackles, 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 5 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. They were penalized 4 times for 35 yards. Time of possession was 35 minutes and 50 seconds. So that makes the Minnesota Vikings ball hawks. They're the 4th team to achieve ball hawk status here in Week 10. The Chicago Bears defense at 47 tackles, 25 solo tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 3 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The Bears were flagged just once the entire night for 5 yards. Just 1 penalty. Time of possession was 24 minutes and 10 seconds. Closing line was Minnesota -3. Margin was 6 points. Over/under at close was 44 points. The two teams only scored 32, so they finished under the 44. The two teams combined for only 534 yards and 117 offensive plays. Average combined yards per play was 4.56. Picked Minnesota to win this game 28-17, and I also picked them to cover the 3 points, and they did so, winning by 6. Now, like I said, there were a couple of games in where I was unsure about some of these games. I already told you that I had changed changed my pick in the Washington-Detroit game. I initially picked Washington, but then I switched late Friday night to the Lions. I also I was thinking about taking the Browns over the Texans, and I probably should have, but I stuck with that one. And that, I think, was pretty much it. Outside of those two, outside of the Washington Detroit game, I did. I think I did pretty good this week. In fact, I know I did pretty good this week. First off, the Atlanta Falcons at 3-6, the Dallas Cowboys at 2-7, Kansas City Chiefs at 8-1, and the New York Jets at 0-9 were all in the bye in Week 10. All right, now we can get to my picks. I went so even with the one change on the board, I still managed to get 10 wins. I finished 10-4 for Week 10 at 71.4%. And for the season, straight up, I have a record of 105, 41, and 1, which is 71.8%. So I'm maintaining that 70% threshold in my straight up picks. Against the spread, this may have been my best week since week 1. I went 9-5, hitting 64.2%, hitting 64.3%. And I am back even with my against the spread picks at 73 wins, 73 losses, and the 1 tie. All right, before we wrap things up, let's take a look at the Week 11 power rankings. And I think I have to write this like 5 different times to perfect it. Here is what I wrote down here for my Week 11 power rankings. Number 32, staying at number 32 with an 0-9 record and visiting the Chargers this week is the New York Jets. At 31 and holding steady at 31 with a 1-8 record and a tough game coming up on Sunday with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Jacksonville Jaguars. At number 30 and no movement from them with a 2-7 record. They are off to Minneapolis to face the Vikings on Sunday. That's the 2-7 Dallas Cowboys. At number 29 and holding steady there with a 2-7 record. They're home for Joe Burrow and the Bengals this week, the Washington football team. And that brings us to our first movement of the week. At number 28, down from 27 last week, they're 2-7, and they will host the Patriots on Sunday. That's the Houston Texans. At number 27, also down a spot from 26, and also with a 2-7 record, they'll host the winless Jets on Sunday. And again, this is a bounce back game for these guys, the Los Angeles Chargers. All right, number 26 with a record of 3-7 and in their bye in Week 11. Previously at number 28, the New York Giants. All right, number 25 with a record of 3-7. They will host the Detroit Lions this week. Previously at 23 are the Carolina Panthers. Number 24, with a record of 2-6-1, they're off to the nation's capital to face the Washington No-Names. Previously at number 19 are the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 23 with a record of 3-6. They get the host Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins in Week 11. Previously at number 22, the Denver Broncos. At number 22 with a 4-5 record, they're off to the Tar Heel State to battle the Carolina Panthers. Previously at number 25 and with a 4-5 record, the Detroit Lions. Number 21 with a record of 3-6. And fresh off the bye, they're off to New Orleans to face the Saints. Previously at 21, the Atlanta Falcons. Number 20 with a record of 3-5-1. Played terribly against the Giants. This week they go to Cleveland and face the Browns. Previously at number 17, the leaders of the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 19 with a record of 4-6 heading into their bye week. Previously at number 20 are the San Francisco 49ers. At number 18 with a record of 4-5, they're off to Houston this week to battle the Texans. Up from number 24 from last week, our biggest jump in the Week 11 power rankings goes to the New England Patriots. Number 17 with a 5-5 record headed into their bye week, and they're riding a 4-game losing streak. Previously at 16, the Chicago Bears. This week's number 16 just beat the Chicago Bears. They're 4-5 and will host the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Previously at number 18, you've got the Minnesota Vikings. Staying put at number 15 with a 6-3 record, they will host Philadelphia on Sunday, and that's the Cleveland Browns. There you got number 14 with a record of 6-3. They will face the Ravens in Baltimore on Sunday, and taking the biggest drop in my power rankings this week, down 7 spots from number 7, the Tennessee Titans. At number 13, with a record of 6-3, they will host the Arizona Cardinals in a divisional clash on Thursday night. Down from number 9 a week ago and down 2 spots over the last, or rather down 8 spots over the last 2 weeks, the Seattle Seahawks. At number 12 with no change with a record of 6-3. They'll get another opportunity to dethrone the Super Bowl champs as the Chiefs come to Sin City on Sunday night. At number 12 are the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 11, also with a 6-3 record, they will be hosting the Green Bay Packers this week. Up from number 14 are the Indianapolis Colts. And now welcome to the top 10. At number 10 with a 6-3 record, they're off the Tampa to battle Tom Brady and the Patriots. Not Tom Brady and the Patriots, but Tom Brady and the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. And that's the Los Angeles Rams, the second of the 3 teams tied for first in the AFC West. At number 9, after that heartbreaking loss in the desert, they are 7-3. They still lead the AFC East, and they are in their bye this week. Previously at number 6, the Buffalo Bills. Number 8, also with a 7-3 record. They got a bounce back game against the Carolina Panthers, and this Monday night they will host the Los Angeles Rams in the first meeting of Brady and Goff since Super Bowl 53. At number 8, previously 11, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 7, with a 6-3 record, fresh off of that dramatic victory over Buffalo. They're off to Seattle to face the Seahawks in a battle of first place in the NFC West on Thursday night. Previously at number 8, the Cardiac Birds of the Desert, the Arizona Cardinals. At number 6, with a 6-3 record, they're off to Denver this week. Previously at 10, the Miami Dolphins. Number 5, also with a 6-3 record. They will host the Tennessee Titans on Sunday, and they slip a spot down from number 4 last week. That's the Baltimore Ravens. At number 4, with a 7-2 record, they're off to Indianapolis on Sunday. Previously at number 5 is the Green Bay Packers. At number 3, with a 7-2 record, they beat the San Francisco 49ers, but they did lose Drew Brees to injured ribs. And now they'll have to make do with Jameis Winston as the starter beginning on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. At number 3, and still at number 3, the New Orleans Saints. At number 2, with an 8-1 record and fresh off their bye week, they're out to exact revenge on the Raiders on Sunday night in Vegas. Holding steady at number 2, the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. And at number 1, with a record of 9-0 after they made mincemeat of the Cincinnati Bengals, they look to do the same against an even worse Jacksonville squad on Sunday. At number 1 for the 5th week in a row, and still undefeated at 9-0, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there you have it, folks. The week that was in the NFL as we recapped week number 10 and dove into my week 11 power rankings. Alright, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell twice every time I go live. This is Big Al signing off. About to head back to work and get ready for my week 11 preview. We'll take a look at my Thursday night picks on Thursday afternoon, so watch out for that. Alright, so have a great rest of your Tuesday and enjoy the pigskin. Talk to you Thursday. Peace out.